Hello, my name is Addilae Carmichael, and I'm a teen ambassador for Girls CEO Connection. And today I'm here with Leslie Grossman. How are you?
Very well, Adelaide. Very happy to be here.
Good to see you too. When the World Economic Forum released data showing it would take 135 years to close the global gender gap, Leslie Grossman knew her work individually coaching and leading women's leadership courses at the George Washington University was not enough. It was time to create a new strategy and a new business. That's how Her Circle Leadership, Grossman's newest enterprise, came into being. What led Grossman down this path after a successful 30-year corporate and entrepreneurial career? Her first jobs were corporate until frustration led her to start her own public relations agency. She learned that growing an agency required more than just business skill. It required a building of powerful relationship network. After the devastating 9/11 attacks, she realized her true vision was to support women to become leaders at the highest level. This led her to launching a national leadership conference program for women in 2002, the first of its kind for both entrepreneurs and executives. During that 10-year period of conferences, Grossman became a sought-after speaker, speaking worldwide. She wrote 2 books and even had her own TEDx talk on why we all need our own entourage. In 2016, the George Washington University invited her to present a 3-day program for women executives. The success of that program, now in its 8th cohort, led Grossman to being named a senior fellow and facility director of executive women's leadership at the George Washington University Center for Excellence in Public Leadership. Today, Leslie presents 2 programs, Executive Women's Leadership and Women's Leaders on the Rise. Grossman says that Her Circle Leadership is the culmination of all she has learned and trained for throughout her life. Her goal is to achieve gender equity for women in 20 years instead of that 35. It's a pleasure to have you here. Let's just kick this off right away. I was just wondering, how many businesses have you had in your extensive career as an entrepreneur?
I actually had 5 businesses. And I realized that, most people don't have 5 businesses, but no. I love it. And but they weren't all big businesses, I can assure you. They got bigger as I got more experience. But yeah. I think it was just that, my dad was an entrepreneur, and I was really, for that reason, having seen him that way, I was very comfortable in that space.
Yeah. You said that your dad was an entrepreneur. What was your very first entrepreneurial venture, and what prompted you to start that? It sounds like you've had entrepreneurship in your blood for a long time.
I have. Well, I would say it's a really interesting how it got started. And it got started, my first business, because pretty much I walked away from my job, my corporate job. But I walked away because I really thought I was much more talented than I really was. One day I was working for a very big restaurant corporation, and my boss that I reported to in public relations left for a bigger job, much bigger job. And so after he had trained me for a long time, they decided not to hire anybody because they just let me do it. I was the in-house PR person. Now, obviously, I wasn't creating strategy, but I was doing the busy work that the publicists do. And I thought I was doing such a great job that I deserved to be promoted to his job, my former boss's job.
Hey, shoot for the stars. I like it.
Right, exactly. And I talked to an associate of mine, and she said, well, you're going to have to talk to the CEO of the company. It wasn't a huge company. There were probably, 15 executives in the group that I worked with. And so I went in to see the CEO, and I talked to him, and I explained what I was doing. And I said, I really feel that you won't need to hire a replacement for Mr. Miles because I can do his job. And so I hope that you will promote me into that. And so he didn't.
Hey, there's the short of it.
That's right. That was the end result, was he said, no, you're not ready for that. We'll hire somebody and you'll stay in your position as an assistant and do that. Well, I thought I was so good at what I did that I would just go off and do my own thing. And that's how I started. And it was a lot harder than I thought, but I did do it.
I love it. I mean, it sounds like you're a jack of all trades and have some self-confidence, which is really all you got to have to start your entrepreneurial journey. I love it.
Well,
Your current,
yeah, I did have the confidence that I did
yeah,
have.
and that's, hey, that's half the battle, you know.
It
Your
is.
current business is her leadership, or her circle leadership, and you launched it in 2020 in the midst of the pandemic. Why, and why wasn't that a risk? What made that exciting, and what made that absolutely terrifying?
Okay. Well, first of all, I got the idea for it in 2020,
Yeah.
and I did not officially launch it then. I really took my time, and I'm still in process, quite frankly, of doing it. Now, I have to say, because I already had other positions, like I am an executive coach, so I have quite a lot of clients.
Okay.
And I also teach at George Washington University. So I'm teaching women's leadership there. So it was not as risky to do this particular new business as my previous businesses, because in the previous businesses that I had, I started from scratch and I didn't have any other income.
Right.
They were actually much riskier than this particular one. So, but it is doing something new that I'm not aware that anybody else is doing. So there is, there is a certain fear factor in it. Like even to this day, I'm still concerned about it. I have confidence in it, but I'm not sure if I have the right formula or not. We have the website up, but we're basically training coaches in the program that I've been delivering to women to help them soar in their careers. And that's the program that I teach at GW, and the program that I use internally with my coaching and other speaking engagements that I have. So it's every time you start a business, there is a risk, and some are riskier than others. And of course, our ego is always on the line, right? So if we fail, or we fear, I would call it fear of failures, fear of failure. That's the risky part that you're going to be. But, I've always believed that everything in life is a risk, and we have to take those risks if we're going to have the life or the work that we want. And that's always been my, I would call it my motto.
Oh, yeah. That's a pretty solid motto to have. Definitely a very good guiding light. I love it. Speaking of kind of your guiding lights and principles, your new book, Link Out, How to Turn Your Network into a Chain of Lasting Connections, seems to relate just to that business that you were describing now. But you wrote the book before launching the business. How do you think that the response from the book inspired you to start the business at all?
Not really. I will just, really the book itself is about building relationships. And that to me is the core of everything. I've identified 7 tenets of leadership, of the highly effective women leaders. And one of the big ones is relationship building. And too many people don't do that. They don't, particularly women. And it's something for girls to think about too. I mean, even as you go into college, you start building relationships there that could potentially carry you into your adult life if they're with the right people, and they could support you in your career. So everything is relationships. So yes, the business that I'm doing now is based on relationships, but I would tell you that every business that I created was always based on relationships.
Wow. That's what it's all based on.
And I think the most successful entrepreneurs, why they're successful is not only if they have a good product or service, but they've built the relationships of trust out there where people will help them succeed. They will be there for them. They will give them advice. All those things are what you need, but you don't get that unless you build relationships.
Yeah. As a young woman in high school who is constantly, being pulled in my job this way and school this way, and don't forget about the English project you haven't started. I am constantly searching for my circle of leaders. How do you think I can develop a strong one of those, especially as a high schooler? Well,
I'll tell you, even in high school, one of the ways you begin to do it and is by being very active in organizations and clubs. which maybe you already are. I would think I know you're in the drama area, right?
I am.
And
Yeah.
that's right. And let's say that relationship with your drama teacher is really important. It could actually influence and have an impact on your career in college and out of college. If you stay in touch. And that's where people don't. You might, often you have a good relationship with someone, but then you go on to the next part of your life and you forget about those people that you had a good relationship in a different phase. So the key is don't forget about them. Stay in touch with them.
Yeah.
Keep connected. Just email them once in a while. Let them know what you're doing. Find out what they're doing. See if there's anything you can do to help them when you come home, let's say, from college, and if you need their help, ask for their help. So relationships are this give and take, and it's not like it's staying in touch with people, staying in touch. You can definitely do that when you're in high school, and you can carry it into college. And then when you're in college, same thing, develop those relationships and carry it into the next phase of your life.
Yeah. That being said, what would you say the biggest piece of advice from your book, Link Out, would be to young entrepreneurs and young women trying to find those connections?
Well, I would say the way you can find them is be active in organizations and run for office. For instance, I'll use myself as an example. When I was in 11th grade, or maybe it was 10th grade, I ran for vice president of the school. Now, I didn't win.
Dang it. No.
But I learned a lot about teamwork, about how I had to give a speech. I learned a lot about it and building the relationships with the people that were going to support me. And I listened to them and they listened to me. So that was an example. But then I was on the student council, and being on the student council, you learn how to get things done in a different way and build relationships with the people in the student council. So look for organizations that you can be part of. And then if there's a chance to have a leadership position, definitely take it on, because and that's how you learn to be a leader, and you learn to build relationships with people. You learn to listen to them, because it's not just about, when you're a leader, telling people what to do. It's hearing what they want and really listening to them, because leaders have to listen to what people want.
Yeah.
So those are all advice. That's all advice that I would say.
What would you say to those girls who might not be as outspoken leaders, who do have a goal that they're trying to reach? What piece of advice would you give them to kind of get out there?
I say take a risk and do the same thing. You see, and because you said girls that are not outspoken, and a lot of girls are not outspoken, and that's because often they've been taught that good girls, nice girls don't behave that way. Nice girls are polite, they wait their turn. And sometimes when you wait your turn, you never get heard, right?
Very often.
Yeah. I mean, I hear it from young women today that are already out in their careers, that they don't have a voice. They feel like they don't speak up. They don't have a voice. And it comes from when you're younger, when, quite frankly, the boys get a chance. They're not reprimanded if they speak out. They run around, they go for what they want, and it's expected that that's okay with boys. But if girls behave the same way, sometimes they're told they're not behaving properly. And I believe that's really wrong. It's really wrong. Yeah.
Very wrong.
So we have to, and I would say a girl like yourself has to encourage other girls that maybe don't have that confidence and have been told to be quiet and wait your turn. Sometimes if you wait your turn, you're never going to get your turn. We can't wait our turn. We have to go for what we want when we want it. And we need to get people to help us and support us in doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. We've done a lot of talking about the circle of leaders and coaches and things like that. What is the difference between this circle of leaders and a coach that you might find, such as yourself?
Okay. Well, a circle of leaders is really surrounding yourself with people that you admire and trust and that you can have conversations with, right?
Right.
So, like I was talking about, it might include your drama teacher, it might include another teacher, it might be somebody outside in the community, maybe in your religious institution that you admire and you work with, and you form a relationship with them by having conversations with them. A coach, now, let me, before I tell you what a coach is, let me just say that one of those people might also be a mentor, which is different than a coach. A mentor, yeah, I'm just going to throw the word mentor.
All sorts of them.
That's right. A mentor is a person that really you admire, and they're there all the time to give you advice and tell you what it was like for them and give you a way of getting to what you want. And that's somebody professional. That's definitely somebody professional. A circle of leaders might be all kinds of people. Now, a coach is kind of like, picture a coach in an athletic team, right? The coach is there to ask you questions, to give you some sort of direction, but then the coach, you got to go out there and play the game yourself, right? You got to play the game yourself. So a coach in your career is somebody that also asks you a lot of questions, make sure they understand where you want to go, and then will help guide you by challenging you to be more of a leader, of your own life in terms of your career, that sort of thing. And usually a coach is somebody that you pay to do that. A mentor is not paid, nor is a circle of leaders.
Yeah. If your circle of leaders is requesting some dough up front, I think there's a problem there.
Right. Then they're not your circle of leaders. Then they're saying, oh, you want to coach me? All right.
Okay.
Well, maybe I'll be willing to pay you for that.
Well, I've loved chatting with you. And as we close up our interview, what little nuggets of wisdom are you wanting to impart on women all over and young girls who are trying to break into this entrepreneur sphere and find their footing in this world?
Well, one word that, in high school, you don't hear a whole lot of, but you will begin to hear it when you get into college. And that's the word network. Build a network, which basically means building relationships with people that, and so that is the thing that one of the things I would advise is really building a network, because some of those people that you meet, if you go to like a school, I don't know if they have teas anymore, but sometimes they'll have an academic tea where you get to meet the professors or this thing or that thing. Go in there and have conversations with people and be curious. The way you build the best relationships, which might start with a networking event, is to be curious about other people, not to feel you have to talk about yourself, but ask them about themselves. Have a series of questions about them that you can learn from them. Tell me how you got to be where you were. Do you love being a this or a that? And what was your path? And, I'm looking to learn more from others, and I love to hear about you. So being curious about other people and asking them questions is how you engage people and build relationships and end up with a circle of leaders or a mentor. So be curious about others and don't be intimidated about feeling that you have to talk about yourself all the time.
Yeah. Well, Leslie, it has been a delight talking to you. So informative. You're fantastic. Where can people find you if they want more of you?
Okay, well, they can find me on LinkedIn. And I don't know how many high school students are on LinkedIn, but definitely when you go, are you on LinkedIn yet?
Of course I'm on LinkedIn.
Okay. Well, so you need to encourage more people to go on LinkedIn, young women. And I can be reached there, or you can email me at Leslie, Leslie, at hercircleleadership.com. And I am happy to talk to people. I love helping young women. That's why I do what I do, because we can change the world together. We need more women in leadership positions and starting more and more successful businesses, because then we will create a world that is equal. And when we have equality, everything is possible.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you to you for watching. I will see you next time. I've been Addilae. Bye, Leslie.
Bye-bye.